Yeah, there was a guy on the street screaming all sorts of invectives and profanity until suddenly he got crushed by a huge letter A. This boggled the mind of a tourist. There are also tourists in a nearby prison in handcuffs, but they are two wrists. But this boggled the mind of a tourist who asked a passerby, "What the heck was that? What's the matter with you?" the local sneered. "Don't you know one always types at the cursor?" Hannibal invaded Rome by crossing the Alps. That's funny. I didn't read anything about the Alps hanging out with Hannibal. But let's not use slang here. He invaded Rome by betraying the Alps. How many Alps? I don't know. History is written by the winning side, in which in this case was ultimately the Romans. Like I said, you don't know. I just tell the jokes. I think one of them must have been Alp Capone. You didn't know that? History is written by the winning side. Hysteria is written by the losing side. That's why I used to use the history class in school to catch up on my sleep. You know, I figured it was better than getting propagandized. Miss McKinney never left her desk, and I sat behind a fat kid who was so big I could fall asleep for the entire class, eclipsed from our teacher's scholastic gaze by the enormous silhouette between us. So when they say fat chance regarding being able to sleep in school, they aren't kidding. That reminds me of one of the dangers of living near mountains. You know, talk about big eclipse things. For example, Africa. You know what happened to the Mongeros? Huh? You know what happened to the Mongeros? Haven't you ever heard of Mount Kilimanjaro? Yeah, Mount Kilimanjaro. I think it's like now its glacier is melting, or whatever it is. It's white, so there's no more snows. They gave him a snow job. That reminds me of some of the dangers of living near mountains. But anyway, Hannibal crossed the Alps with a huge army of elephants. A lot of them didn't make it. And of course, lots of cooks. Lots of cooks. The army ate on the march. So they ate Chinese food. They ate Chinese food. You see, one of those cooks can cook with a wok. Good thing those guys didn't eat on the Ides of March. Beware the Ides of March, especially if you're going through the Alps. Anyway, the Romans were famous for their roads, like the Roman emperor who built the Apian Way. He was an arividerchi Roma. Arividerchi Roman. You know, they wrote that song about him. Arividerchi Roman. Goodbye, my friend, goodbye. You traveled down the road with your heavy load. You're gonna get around beyond the town. You're gonna get to Britain someday. Hip hooray! Something like that. Anyway, well, you know, as they say, Rome wasn't built in a day. It was built in a daydream. That's right. Rome wasn't built in a day. It was built in a daydream. It had to be. I mean, a daydream. Well, it might have been a dame dream. I mean, they had their eyes on the Sabaean chicks, all right. It had to be a daydream. You don't build a city that size with such lousy sewage. To do so would be suicide. But you've got to hand it to them. They did build great aqueducts to transport water on that infrastructure right from mountain streams to downtown Rome. Hence the saying, aqueous verba vocatari, or water you talking about. Anyway, of course the aqueducts were open, so they used to have lots of water birds riding into town, mostly ducks. I think that's where they got the name. At first it had to be aqueduct. Of course they did their thing in the water. Yes, they did. Ducks don't have the brains. They'll say, well, look, just, hey, what's the right? I don't know. I gotta go. Where you going? No, I gotta do number 2. Oh, well, just jump over there and lean over the side. Don't be a pig. You're a duck. No, they just go whack, whack, back. Oh. So, of course they did their thing in the water. If they did their thing, it's like, cut them some slack, I mean, they built the infrastructure. So if those ducks did their thing in the water, the structure would then bear the new nomenclature, aqueduct. Of course, the French word for duck is canard. It's like one of the most expensive dishes in a good French restaurant is duck in orange sauce, or canard à l'orange, to which the poor Frenchman might say, canard me dérange, because of the frightful expense of such an entree. Because they're so cute, lots of things are named after ducks. No, not duct tape. Duct tape. That's more appropriately called ducting tape. There was a duct tape, though. There is a duct tape, actually. On a technicality, it's really a tapeworm prevalent in ducks. That's duct tape. But so the French word is also famous for its adaptability. Take, for example, the word canard, canard, which I actually imagine to have originally been coined as can-nerd. Can-nerd. A canard is the forward wing foil on an aircraft, which has been designed by a can of nerds known as a think tank. There was a think tank one time, that was so smart that when there was a battle, it would go the other way. German tanks are so smart, they have ants in their panzers. One German think tank came up with a flying breakfast known as the Luftwaffe. The Luftwaffe, yeah. Good luft on that one, huh? It was so cold last winter that one day I saw a piranha fish frozen in the sidewalk. Oh well, it was a little nippy. It was so cold, one feared to venture forth in slippers, because there was so much